Hello everybody and welcome. So I'm looking at trying to start a new series of coding videos, and I wanted to kind of start from the very beginning. And so I thought, what is the very beginning? Well, in case you guys want to use PyCharm, I wanted to give you a project to show you all the cool things you can do with PyCharm, because better to know your tools ahead of time and see what they can do. So let's try doing some stuff. Well, if we add a, let's just call this main.pye file. But you can do if main equals main, like that. And you may notice here you have the ability to run this now. And you also have the ability to debug it now. So you could run this. And what this essentially says is, if you're running this as the main file, then do whatever. So do something. And then like that. So this means, hey, this is the main file. And if we're running it directly, we're going to do this do something. But if we just import this main file somewhere from, say, another file, call it another, from, for example, it's not going to just run this because we've imported the file. It has to be, it'll only run it if we run this file directly using, Python. So something nice is that it gives us this little run triangle. So if we're working on a project, we can just run it from there. So how do you do it? And there we go. So that's kind of cool. Now, something else that might be also cool is an imported function. Now, let's say we're not importing from here, but we've got an imported function here, print potato. So we want to run that here. Well, we could go and do from that another import an imported function and get it just fine. But sometimes that's a little bit of a pain in the butt. What if we had like a million files, and we had to search through all of them? And that would be a real pain in the butt. So actually PyCharm offers a great thing on the Mac. It's the option button. On the PC or on Linux or on pick of whatever, I think it's Alt button. And so if you hold down Option or Alt and press Enter, you'll get this nice little screen. And it says import another imported function. And you can do it like that. And now, this is actually, I don't know if it's going to do it correctly because I don't know if this is considered a package, but let's see what it does. Yep, no, it worked fine. So, yeah, I guess we don't have to do like that. So, but no, that's fine. Yeah, that should be fine. So, okay. So anyways, so you can just import it like that. You can import it locally so that it actually imports it in the scope by doing a local import like that. That's only necessary if you're trying to avoid circular imports, but that's not a really good way to avoid circular imports. So we maybe talk about that in a different video about if you're running into circular imports a lot, then you should be having a different design in your code. All right, so that's an interesting thing for imports, is you can just hit Alt Enter or Option Enter, and I use that a lot. So let's say we wanted to change this imported function name though, and we didn't want to change it everywhere. You can actually just hit Shift F6, and you get the rename function, and this is going to rename it everywhere, and imported function. Like that, and you just go to refactor, and it tells you all the usages down here. So we've got a use in the do something function, and we've got a use, there we go, imported here, and you can see all its uses, and then you can kind of get a direct reference to it as well. Yeah, there it is. So then it shows the function. So we say, okay, it looks good, do refactor. And now it made it into literally the worst name for a function that it could possibly have named it, which is a terrible name. So we'll do another name back, and we'll just call this party time refactor. Do refactor. And you see every time it does the refactoring everywhere. So that's quite useful. Okay, another really useful thing. If you hold down the Alt button or if you hold down Commands, it will actually take you to this. So we're in this file and we want to go to the party time function. We can do that. You just Alt click on it. If you want to look at the uses of it, you can Alt click on the function as well, and you can see the uses of it. You go directly to the uses of it. So those things alone are crazy, crazy useful. But let's say Buggy Function. We've got a Buggy Function here. So it's a function that raises an error, and we want to debug it. Well, another thing we can also do is the debug command. So again, we Alt or commands, or Alt or Option, sorry, return on this, and we can import this one. And we try running it, and of course it'll return a value error. Boo. So it does get to potato, which is the party time function, but it gives us a value error. Boo. So we can actually come down here now, and in the IDE we can look at where this error took place. So we know it took place in the do something function, and if we click, or in this, sorry, I should say the main if loop here, when it called the do something function, we know something went wrong. We know it went wrong in the Buggy function, so we know it went wrong here, and we can then go to the Buggy function and see here. So let's say, well, okay, let's say the function is supposed to be something like I, because we're expecting an integer, and then we do, what would be something that would throw an error if it's got so an integer instead of let's say I upper, because that's a string function, so we go, yeah, okay, I'm going to actually rewrite this. So let's say we're expecting S, a string, and so we do S upper, because we're thinking, this is going to be a string. And we're going to convert it to uppercase. So we're going to call this uppercase string as the variable name. And then, if we pass to this Buggy function, we pass the number 5. I think this is going to throw an error, because integers don't have, exactly, no attribute upper. So we can come here and we can run this debug. We can put this debug stop here. And we can say, what gives, we know something's going wrong with this function. And we can run the debugger, and we can see, look, this is an integer that's being passed in here. So this is something I would maybe love to do on a more complicated scale. But if you're ever having a function that's throwing an error, you can throw this little debug stop point right at the error and see what's going on. So we know there's an integer. And so the last thing I want to kind of point out, well, this would be good for another time, but you can also say what kind of type you want it to be by using type hinting, and I think that'll be another video to get into that. But then PyCharm, the IDE, will show you, look, this is not being passed the correct value. Look, it's supposed to get a string, and it's highlighting it and saying it's an integer. So that's a real way to be a bro to yourself. A bro or a lady bro. I'm not meant to say a masculine term, but a good way to be a friend to yourself is that you can, see when you're causing these type errors to happen when you start using the type values, because PyCharm will actually show you them. Yeah, it's a very valuable tool in that respect, and I think we could even have a whole other video about different things to do, but those covered the most important and the most cool things that PyCharm can do on your IDE. So I'm glad we covered them, and that's all the time we have for now. So thank you for watching, and any questions, please feel free to comment.